Salute. It's your boy Rain. It's that ATP Combat Media Show. Yo, salute to all the subscribers that have been moving forward with this channel, keeping this space moving in a positive direction. We're growing out here. If this is your first time, going ahead to check out this content. I advise you guys to go ahead and hit the subscription button, hit that bell icon so you get all the alerts when we drop this content. So, back by popular demand. You know, I've been gone for a little while from doing these videos because I've been a little busy working. You know how life is. Life is lifing, and we live in it. But, you know, friends to the channel have told me, listen, man, we want to see these drops. We haven't seen you in a while. It don't matter where you at. Drop it when you can. Get your phone out. Put some content out. So that's what we're doing. A lot's been going on in boxing, and you know, I want to stay on time with it, with you guys, give you guys my present reaction as it's developing. So in the past few days, we've had a lot of news come out. We've got Canelo Alvarez and Jaime Mungia supposedly in negotiations, or at least the PBC is trying to coordinate some sort of understanding with Canelo Alvarez. It seems like they were able to secure a guaranteed purse for Canelo Alvarez to fight Jaime Mungia. So they look like they really do some business with Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy to help put this fight together between Jaime Mungia and Canelo Alvarez for the 4th of May, which will be like the Cinco de Mayo fight. We all know that it's Mexican Independence Day, and it's Cinco de Mayo for Canelo Alvarez as far as his activity is concerned. So although Canelo did come out and say that he was only going to be interested in fighting an American, or that the negotiations was going to be with an American fighter, it does look like, you know, like a friend of mine said, I said in my little short, things change quickly in boxing, and how quickly they are changing when we've seen that Canelo Alvarez may very well be fighting a Mexican on Cinco de Mayo, which, listen, I have no complaints about it. I mean, I know off the front of everybody's brain, the first thing that's going to come to their mind is, when are we going to get this Canelo Alvarez, David Benavidez fight? Well, look, man, when somebody's focused on not fighting for whatever their reasons are, sometimes you get to a point where you kind of have to accept what they want. Although we can complain, we can bitch, moan, and groan about what's actually happening, we have to accept the reality of it. I'll tell you what, I'm way more excited and interested in seeing Jaime Mungia fighting against Canelo Alvarez than the Jamal Charlo fighting against Canelo Alvarez. So, you know, at this point, we just want to see these guys fight, right? Fight somebody competitive. I think Jaime Mungia is going to make a fight out of it. I think he's going to bring his best foot forward. There's probably a high probable chance that somebody's going to get stopped in this fight. Even Canelo Alvarez has a chance of really losing this fight. Jaime Mungia has a new trainer in Freddie Roach. We saw him when he fought against John Ryder, stepping up his poise. You know, he really uses that jab and takes his time to break down. Well, he used his jab and took his time to break down John Ryder, and really just fought a great fight and ended up stopping John Ryder, doing something that Canelo Alvarez wasn't able to do against John Ryder. So that's an interesting fight, to say the least, not to mention two Mexicans fighting on Cinco de Mayo. Great fight. So we'll be watching to see what happens with that. Once again, not penned out yet. PBC hasn't been contracted and said that it's going to happen, because I guess it's waiting on Canelo Alvarez's approval. It feels like Canelo Alvarez had different plans, and that Al Heyman and the PBC are offering this to Canelo Alvarez, and it's still going to need his approval before we can count on that happening. So that's where we're at that point. As far as more news, we got Gervonta Tank Davis and Frank Martin, who are supposedly in conversations for coordinating a fight for early June, supposedly. Now, once again, not penned out, just speculation, but good speculation by some credible sources. But once again, people like Leonard Ellerbe, who will always find a way to get involved in these conversations. You know, people always want to ask him a question about what's going on with the Gervonta Tank Davis, because it seems like he has firsthand access to understanding what's going on. Needless to say, I'll also go on record to say, I don't know what Leonard Ellerbe does for Gervonta Tank Davis. I mean, I guess everybody can go underneath the banner of an advisor. Maybe that's what he's doing for Gervonta. Probably is what he's doing for Gervonta. But regardless, his information seems to be relatively accurate when he's talking about Gervonta. Although at times I'll see Gervonta say some things that are counter act against what Leonard Ellerbe is saying, but still he seems to be a credible source in the space when it comes to the business of Gervonta Tank Davis. And he pretty much kind of just, I don't want to say check showbiz, but somebody referred to showbiz being the person who put out the confirmation that this fight was getting put together. And Leonard Ellerbe says, who the F is who the F is Showbiz. Until Gervonta says who he's fighting, nobody knows who he's fighting. So what does that mean to me? That means that, once again, I'm up in the air. I'm not ready to sit here and I'm not getting ready for Frank Martin, Gervonta Tank Davis fight in June until I hear from Gervonta. You know, I respect what everybody says when it comes to Gervonta. Not everybody, but the powers that be, the Al Haymans, the Leonard Ellerbys, the Calvin Fords, the Coach Kenny Ellises, all those guys. When they speak on Gervonta, I listen, you know. Sometimes it feels like I listen to them before I listen to Gervonta, but it is what it is, right? So at this point, I don't know what's going on with that. Personally, if that fight is put together, I'll tell you that I'm okay with it. Gervonta's coming over a year layoff. By the time he does his fight, it'll be over a year that since he had his last fight, which was last April against Ryan Garcia. So that'll be like April, May, June. That'll be about 14 months from the last time that he fought. So I didn't expect him to jump right into the ring with a Shakur Stevens or a Devin Haney or Lomachenko, any of those big fights that everybody seems to be asking for. You know, I expected him to do a tune-up fight. Now, not to say that Frank Martin is a tune-up fight, but I think when you look at the broad spectrum of fighters that we want to see him fight and the style of fighting that we want to see him fight in against that athletic black fighter type of structure, I think that Frank Martin's the lesser of all those evils, and it does get him rating, put him in front of the kind of fighter we want to see him fight in front of. So I'm not going to complain about it. To be honest with you, I give him credit because he could have taken a Rayo Venezuela, who supposedly his mandatory to his WBA title, who I thought would have been a way easier fight for Gervonta Tank Davis. Clearly, an Isak Cruz was also an option for him. I mean, Gervonta could do whatever he feels like doing, and if he's choosing out his own free will to coordinate against a fighter like Frank Martin, we have to give him his respect for doing that. So we'll be looking to see that fight, and you know, the questions that I'll have in that fight is just to see if Frank Martin can drag this fight out into the latter rounds, maybe put Gervonta Tank Davis on his heels a little bit, or not on his heels as far as getting it back up, but on his heels as far as the pressure is concerned of being behind in rounds, and seeing how Gervonta reacts to that. If he's able to take it up to that next level, adjust, and put Frank Martin in some danger to stopping him, or will Gervonta change his whole game plan and start to win rounds, begin to have more than halfway through the fight and be ahead on rounds, and see how Frank Martin adjusts to that. I think that all comes together, formula, recipe for a great fight when you have situations like that. Both these fighters are dogs. They have a history in the sparring, in the gym, sparring each other, and people who have seen the sparring session, a lot of people were very impressed with what Frank Martin brought to the table in these sparring sessions, some people even saying that they felt like Frank Martin may have gotten the best of Gervonta Tank Davis in these sessions. Keep in mind, of course, sparring is sparring. We're not here trying to make a decision what's going to happen on a fight based on sparring, but at the end of the day, it is part of the story, right? What builds up the interest in the fight and what gives people interest in seeing what would happen in the actual fight in the ring with 8-ounce gloves on and no headgear, right? We all want to kind of see that. So I think that builds for an interesting fight. So if that is a fight they're putting together, I'm okay with that. It doesn't negate my wanting to see a Devin Haney or a Shakur Stevens or a Lomachenko or Teofimo Lopez in the ring with Gervonta Tank Davis, but I think it's a respectful move in the right direction to what we actually want to see ultimately. So, much respect to those guys over there, GTD and Gervonta Tank Davis, and everybody who's representing him. If they're able to put this together, I think as a fan of boxing, we're gonna be pleased with that fight. I don't know how they'll do on pay-per-view. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors about that, about black fighters fighting black fighters and how that does on pay-per-view, and there's a reason why black fighters always fight Mexicans and la 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 la, right? But I know me, as a boxing fan, I'm happy to hear that this is supposedly getting put together. Keeping in mind, of course, that it's not completely put together yet, that it's still speculation, but it's decent, good speculation. A lot of credible content spaces are pushing out that they're getting inside information. This fight is getting put together. As well as not only content creators, but people like Michael Benson not Michael Benson, I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but putting out this information as to be true. So we'll see what happens and how that looks, supposedly for early June. We'll keep our ears out for that. What else is happening? We've got David Benavidez, who's actually made a very good decision for himself, in my opinion. I actually was bringing up this in many panels that I've spoken on about David Benavidez and what his next move should be. Listen, this guy's been sitting in the super middleweight division now for a couple of years, sitting in the super middleweight division, waiting on an opportunity to fight a Canelo Alvarez. This man's like damn near a 3-time interim, or whatever you want to call it, WBC title holder in that division. He's been Canelo's mandatory for a minute now, and Canelo's done everything to go ahead and not fight this guy. I won't say duck, but it is what it is. he's done everything he can to get that fight coordinated, and Canelo's shown no interest in making that fight happen. The man is a big 168-pounder. He can easily fight at 175. It's fair to say the only reason he's been hanging out at 168 is to get an opportunity to get somebody like Canelo Alvarez on his record. He was a WBC champion at one point in time. He got his belt stripped of him for using a little cocaine, partying outside of the ring. Got caught doing that. And also during the COVID, when he wasn't able to train as much as he would normally train, he did lose his belt on the scale. So he's really never lost his belt before. Canelo Alvarez being undisputed at 168 pounds. The story is there. The build-up for the fight is there for one way and reason or another, which we have to put on Canelo, because if Canelo wants a fight, Canelo's going to get the fight. He's the A side. He's the face of boxing. So if it's not happening, we have to say Canelo Alvarez is just not interested. And I think David Benavidez might just be at that point where he understands that and he's willing to accept it, because inactivity is killing these fighters, people. Inactivity is murdering some of our favorite fighters. And I don't mean murdering like literally physically killing them, but, activity sharpens the skills. The more rounds you put in, the better you get. You know what I mean? And David Benavidez having a fight and, really grab and reach at straws to get a fight coordinated, waiting on something with Canelo Alvarez is just not healthy for him. It's more important that he stays active. So I understand if he makes this move up to light heavyweight right now, supposedly in a WBC interim title fight, which is also going to be putting whoever wins that fight between him and I can't remember the Russian's name or the Ukrainian's name. I don't know if he's Russian or Ukrainian. I think he's Russian, but don't quote me. I'm giving it to you on the whim. But at the end of the day, the winner of that fight between David Benavidez and that gentleman makes that person the number one contender to fight against, the mandatory to fight against a better Biev and a Bivol for the undisputed light heavyweight championship that we also know is getting ready to happen coming June in Saudi Arabia. That better Biev and Bivol will be facing each other, and there'll be an undisputed light heavyweight champion at the end of that fight, unless it's some sort of draw or something like that, right? So supposedly this fight puts him in position to get a shot at that undisputed at those undisputed titles at the light heavyweight division. Look, man, that's what I thought he should do. Personally, I'll be real with you. I'm okay with it. I thought he should go ahead and move up to 175. Number one, it's an aggressive weight cut for him. Everybody knows how big he's at 168. Number two, don't hold your whole career up over a Canelo Alvarez. You know what I mean? He's doing what he does. You got to be doing what you do. If you guys are meant to meet up. And look, maybe at the end of the day, you getting those undisputed titles, maybe that'll be a more attractive fight for Canelo Alvarez at that point, because now he has an opportunity to himself become a two-weight class undisputed champion in the fall belt era. Maybe that will motivate him and give him the incentive he needs to fight a David Benavidez. So at the end of the day, it just doesn't hurt. Go ahead and move up. I'm okay with that. You guys will let me know, I'm sure, what you think about it. What else do we have? I said the Canelo Alvarez and Mungia, David Benavidez moving up. We've got Tank Davis and Frank Martin getting ready to fight, supposedly June 1st. I say one thing about the whole news coming out right now is that this is a whole PBC news thing here, right? Outside of Jaime Mungia being in with Golden Boy, this is about whether or not PBC can get all these fights put together. You know what I'm saying? And we got to see, it's on them. I've had my questions about the way the deals has been structured between PBC and Amazon to see how they're going to facilitate a lot of these great fights from happening. We'll see, Once again, none of these fights that I'm talking to you guys about have been penned out in representation of a contract or have even cemented dates. Even the Jaime Mungia fight, as close as it may be, and we do at least have a May 4th date for it, we don't know if Canelo Alvarez has accepted that fight. So all eyes on PBC. It's definitely been like that, and it's going to be like that until they show and prove and show us that they have the ability to put these fights together that we're trying to see. Their first card coming up on March 30th. Look, we're not going to make it a big deal, but some people are pleased. I think most people aren't. Nobody wants to see a catchweight fight between Tim Tszyu and Keith Thurman as a, not that nobody wants to see that fight, but I don't know if anybody wants to pay $60 to $80 for a pay-per-view to see that fight as a headliner. But look, that's this guy's a personal opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. Like assholes, we all got one, right? And now we got Haney and Garcia also. That I guess the information's out there that it's actually going to be in Brooklyn, the Barclays Center. Some people don't feel like that's the right move. They feel like Vegas is the Mecca. That's where the fight should be happening. Me, myself, personally, I have no problems with this fight happening at the Barclays. I don't care if this fight happens in your backyard. At the end of the day, as long as the fight happens, there's some cameras on there where I can watch it. Listen, man, I'm happy just to see the fight happen between Haney and Garcia. And it is what it is. I mean, I have nothing more to say about that, except that, I'm excited to see the fight. I've seen a lot of great fights come out to Barclays, and this will just be another one on that list. I'm hearing that there's rumors that it might not be a pay-per-view as well, which I think is interesting, but at the end of the day, It don't need to be a pay-per-view for it to be a good fight for me to watch. I mean, please, if you're going to give me a pay-per-view quality fight for free, I'm not finna complain about it. You know what I'm saying? But look, to each their own. But it looks like that's developing and moving in the right direction. And from what I understand, that's already penned out. Contract is done. And shout out to Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya and just these promoters who are able to just put fights together, work together, cross-promote with other promotional companies and give the fans the fights that they want to see. And I just want all the promotional companies to really take a page from that type of energy. I think that's one of the greatest things that we love about of the idea of a Turkey Al-Sheikh and Riyadh and Saudi Arabia, and the way they're able and their willingness to facilitate a neutral ground to where these fights can happen. Because as a fan base, we're losing when we don't see these great fights. Shout out to Al Heyman and putting the fighter first. The fighter should always be taken care of, but ultimately at the end of the day, as far as the fans are concerned, we also need to be taken care of. We also need to be seeing the fights we want to see, and it gets difficult for that to happen when they want to keep their fights all in-house and they got to get paid so much money to fight that these fighters don't even want to fight anymore. I can go on all day about what I believe about that whole the PBC era of boxing. You know what I mean? The good and the bad and the ugly in between. But that's pretty much what it is. You guys let me know in the comments, what do you think about Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia fight being in Brooklyn and possibly not a pay-per-view? What do you guys think about David Benavidez moving up to light heavyweight? Was it something he should have been done, or do you guys feel like it's a mistake? You guys still feel like he should have stayed at super middleweight and pursued that and waited on Canelo or whatever, opportunities laid for them at the super middleweight division? And of course, what do you guys think about Tank and Frank Martin potentially fighting June 1st? You guys believe it's happening? There's no contract out there yet, supposedly. There's a little bit of news actually that's been out there, rumors, not rumors, but a little bit of news based on some tweets that Gervonta Tank Davis may also have, like he's been telling Calvin Ford and Kenny Ellis to kind of like keep the chatter on the low, kind of not agreeing too much with what they've been saying. That'll be another segment. We'll talk about that a little bit deeper a little bit later. But what do you guys think about Gervonta and Frank Martin fighting? What do you think about it? Where's that fight going to happen anyway, if it does happen? What date is it going to happen? None of it's been penned out, but supposedly that's the news on the street, that this is the fight that they're coordinating. You guys let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, hit that bell icon if it's your first time subscribing, to make sure that you're getting a bell icon alert whenever this content is dropping. And once again, I appreciate to all the subscribers who have got me this far. It's only been a short amount of time, about a little over 4 months that we've been doing this. I'm learning every day. Thank you for your patience, for sitting there watching me learn and finding some interest in the content. As I said in the beginning when I started this channel, it's just going to get better. It's just going to get better. It's just going to get better. And I appreciate you guys for hanging with me. It's your boy Rain. This is the ATP Combat Media Show. And that note, we out.